Hey there, everyone. I hope you're all doing good. Today, we are finally going to take a look at one of my favorite synths that I finally managed to buy last year in 2021, the Roland MC-202. It's quite of a weird one. So let's take a tour of what's in there. We have one oscillator with a mixer, waveform mixer. We have pulse with variable wave shape that can be controlled either manually or via the LFO or via the envelope, which is a very Roland thing that I particularly enjoy. Then we have a sawtooth and a sub-oscillator with 1 octave down, 2 octave down, and 2 octave down pulse. Well, both of those are square waves, and this one is a pulse wave. It's narrower. This filter. You might hear right now that my unit has a little problem. There is some bleed from the oscillator through the filter into the VCA. So even when it's fully closed, you have this little which is a bit annoying, but the best way to get rid of this is to just turn the high band of the filter down on the equalizer. I just switched it on, so it's less pronounced now. Still there, but in a mix, you don't really hear it. So we have this famous Roland filter. It does go into self-oscillation, and it's very loud. So even with nothing, it's very good at making this kind of sharp sine wave. All those little sounds I record now are going to go on Patreon, as always. Okay, so enough with messing around with this. The filter can be modulated by the envelope. Like a lot of synths from that era, like the SH-101, you have one ADSR that controls both the amplitude of the VCA and the filter from a dictated amount. But you have this gate mode, which makes the VCA act like the sustain is fully open and with no release. So it lets you have a full output amplitude while tweaking the filter more precisely. You can do classic vibrato with the mod here that's applied on the oscillator. We also have an octave selector, which is quite fun to play with. And one of the fun things about this LFO is that you can apply a delay, which means when you press the key, it's not there, and it takes that amount of time to get there. It's also on quite a few Roland synths, but it's not on the SH-101. And one thing that is missing from the SH-101 on this guy is the white noise. But as we will see later, my unit is fully semi-modular, so there's lots of fun things we will do later on with this. So the other very peculiar things, and my favorite thing about this synthesizer, it's its sequencer. You don't have any memory for this sequencer, so whatever you record in it will be lost when you power it down. Straight away, when you start to play with it, when you turn it on, it will be recorded. So let me record something. So this is typically how I would record things. Just entering notes, then you press play. And you can dictate the tempo here. Play with the setting as you want. Okay, and then it stops because it arrived at the end. And if you don't put it in cycle mode by shift and cycle here, it's not gonna loop. So it's pretty good at classic Roland acid style thing. Also on the filter you have the keyboard tracking. The guy who sold it to me had the original box and the original manual. The MC-202 offers a total memory capacity of 2600 steps. Oh boy. Now you can edit the steps. So when we play now, every note is the same length. And if we go here to step, we can choose the length of each of those. So my personal favorite way to use this is not complete randomness, but really just doing it as I feel. So let's make long, 3 short, long, 3 short, long, 8, very short, long. So yeah, that's how I go until I reach the end, and then I press play again and check what I have. And that's why I like this. It's very hard to come up with something that make a proper loop. So I will either record it and then re-edit the thing as I feel. Oh, that's good. As I feel I want. Anyway. If you hook it up, because it has DynSync, 2 out and 1 in, if you hook it up with a drum machine or stuff, if it's not the center part of the track, if it's not a proper loop, it's okay. I mean, I like the fact that it does very weird loops that aren't classic 4/4 stuff. I love it. No, let's go to the normal envelope mode for a change. You can also, into this step edit, add accent and slides here. Portamento, accent. Let's go for it. Accent. I'm going to take each of the long ones and give them either a slide or an accent. I just decided like this. Now we have our accent here. So we have sometimes louder notes. Stop this. One interesting thing is that you can, if you go Shift Accent, you can have the accent being not only the VCA, but also the filter. And I quite like that. Sometimes it clips a little bit when using the accent. And then we have our slide time. That will be easier to hear with lots of sustain, or in the gate mode. So I hooked up the DIN sync to the Yocto. And so now we have this. Both are going into my Fostex 3180 spring reverb. And we have classic brain dancey electro-ish things. Oh, that's good. Samples. Clicks in spring reverbs. Always works. Now, we're going to try something that I have in mind since quite a while, but I actually never tried. I guess it's exactly the right time to try it. So, I've seen a lot of people writing down numbers about the step length, gate length, because we haven't seen the gate length. We are going to see it right away. So, what I thought is that as I don't like numbers and I don't like musical notation, I don't know how it works. So I'm going to try to make a graphical score of a sequence instead of like rewriting it. Graphical scores, if you don't know what it is, it's just writing music by image, basically. Here we go. Well, that's an idea. Let's try to interpret this. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 events. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Good. Now, let's go edit the steps. So we have those different numbers. This one will be very long, the maximum. This one is a little bit less. Let's say this. Those are short. This one is less short. This one same as this one. Done. Cycle. This one I'm not a very big fan of it. So I'm going to change this one. So if you want to change this one is the 6th. We're on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And let's change it to 48. That's fun. Now, if you want, you can add another notation. So this one, as it has this little bump, we could say that this is an accent. That's what is fun about graphical scores, that you can choose however you decide to interpret it. I was wrong, it was portamento. Okay, portamento is fine. It does that little bump. I'm alright with it. And then if you want to add stuff, let's say, this will be an accent. So let's go to step. It's the 5th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 accent. That's a fun way to work. Also, we haven't seen the gate. We can edit the length of those things. The default is half of the, and it will become clearer. And here you can decide, you have to type how much. So here, the length of the gate is 12 because those are 24 tick long. So let's put 6 instead. So they will be very short. This one is supposed to be 24, but let's say 12. This one, let's say longer. It's supposed to be 48, so 32. And this one, we're going to say play. So now we have some notes that are sustained for a longer period of time. It's actually important if you use the delay time thing. So on the short thing you have no vibrato, but on the other one you do. I decided to make another short video about it to show you how to make some stuff like this. Okay, let's go back to 0. The idea behind this is to use the second lane of sequencing that you have available in the MC-202 to control the cutoff frequency. So you can have stepped modulation that you don't have on board. So you need to have not necessarily the full semi-modular thing that I have, but at least one input to control the filter. I'm going to help myself with this graphical score that I made. So this lane, the blue lane, will be the notes and the events of channel 1. And this is the modulation curve, approximately, that I'm going to draw on channel 2. Let's start with channel 1. We want 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Easy. Okay, very simple sequence. Now let's go back to edit and edit the steps. I want 4 short ones, 3 long ones, 3 short again, and 1 long. Oops. I might have double clicked somewhere, but anyway. Okay, let's loop it and see how weird it is. Now, let's get to the modulation lane. So I'm going to channel 2 here, edit pitch. So I want nothing, like no modulation on the first 4. So I go to the minimum note and press 4 times. Then I want some stepped staircase. Now the same thing but a little bit less. Let's go back here. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And 4 but longer. So and that starts up. So up. Okay, that should do it. Press play. Let's go back to channel 1. I will plug channel 2 CV out directly to the cutoff control here. And if I play, I have some weird things happening. There's a long blank because on channel 2 I haven't edited the steps yet. And so the sequence make a pause until it reaches the end of channel 2. So now we are going to edit the steps here. Oops, what have I done? Oh. Edit, step. All of those will be 12 tick long. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And those are going to be 24 long. Well, I guess I miscalculated something, but that's not really a problem. Let's check it out. No, we are hearing channel 2. We don't want to hear channel 2, we want to hear channel 1 with the modulation drawn in channel 2. That's fun. So here on this unit, I'm lucky that I have the mod input. So I can plug in here and then decide how much I want this modulation on the filter. Of course, as well, you need either some sustain or some long gates to hear all the steps. So you can try to do this with also controlling other device than the 202. You can, if you have other sequences that send CV out, you can try to control other things. You can try to apply these tips to other things than the MC-202, of course. And the main information about this, that it's not because this external synth is labeled CV and gate that you have to only send that to control notes. You can control modulation with it. And I suggest if you have the 202 that you draw some stuff like this. It's very fun actually to work with this kind of graphical scores. You can also find a lot of graphical scores online and interpret them as you want. By the way, I'm going to link you up to a very nice video from Sarah Will Reed about this. For this last part, we are going to use some eurorack to modulate all those ins and outs. For example, we are going to start by making a very simple sequence. Okay, so now we can use, for example, the modular to give the 202 what it doesn't have. Here we have a VCF in. Also, one thing worth noting is that if you plug something to this VCF in, it doesn't disconnect the mixer, so it will add things. So in order to have a control over the volume of what I'm going to send, I'm going to take the VCA output of this boundary, and I'm going to send the noise out of the fusion modulator inside. So now I can add noise where we didn't had one before. We could take the CV out, of the built-in synth to tell this oscillator to play the same sequence as the 202. Its output there. About that, you can sequence things from this sequence, but you can also access a second layer of CV, so you can have this sequence running and sequence another thing. It's a bit complicated and I don't want to get into it right now, so let's forget about it, but you can. Now, one of my favorite things, taking the gate out of the sequence, clocking a sequencer. That's one of the most clever things about this mod. I don't know if you can see. So, if I send it to cutoff, that's cool already. I have this controlling the cutoff. But there's no attenuation. But if you send it to mod, now, everywhere there is mod, this has replaced the LFO. So you can actually make it work like that. It also means you can sequence the pitch directly here with attenuation. But there's also an accent in, which I do quite like, because if you want to make the accent a little bit more alive, you can then program it from here. And it's still controlled from the accent knob here. And then you could send like audio rates, crazy fast modulation to the filter. Via the mod here. So you can have that volley type of sound with the high resonance. Also means that, of course, you can do the same in FM directly the oscillator core, or both, for some squelchy robot voice things. Computer bug. You can not rely at all on the sequencer. And for example, let's take the end of cycle. Patch it to the gate, which will trigger our thing. Let's take the output of this envelope to the mod, and then here we go. We make some drum sounds. With the filter. So you can quickly become a very powerful thing. Let's do it with a boundary. Let's deposit. There we have it. The 202 Gabber. Let's try to make as much things as possible with this. Let's now automate the filter. Cut off. There you go. Now this guy is now your best drum module, sort of. Let's put some noise again. Into the filter. Put an LFO from the slew of the boundary to control the amplitude of the output. You can also easily send the audio out from here, as it's a eurorack modular level VCA output. And that's it for today. That's a lot of stupid things. I'll try to do some usable sounds with it that I can give you on Patreon. Plus some of those weird stuff. This was fun. See you next time. Thanks for watching. And make sure you go to Patreon if you want to help me keep doing those stupid things.